everybody. What's going on?
Hey,
Yo, what's up?
What's up, squad? So welcome.
What's crack?
LTS Wrestling Podcast, second episode. Today we got the rest of the squad attending. We'll make a quick round though. Everybody introduce yourselves. Starting off with my good old partner here, Nick. Good morning, sir.
Yo, morning. What's up, everybody? Nick from Hawaii, long-time wrestling fan. And, you get to know me more once we get through this podcast.
Maybe a little too long, but no. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And we got some Cali people up in this bitch. So we got my cousin right here.
Hey, Northern California up here, San Jose.
Bay Area.
Jazzy, let's go. Thank you for having me, cuzzo. What's up, Iron Man Nick, J Soul, let's go. Husky boy, let's go.
And we got family up in this too. Jake.
What's going on, man? Excited to get this popping. Supposed to be in last week's show, but things didn't work out. But I'm excited, repping LA, as you can see here. And let's get this thing started, man.
Yes, sir. Ooh. Yes, sir. And any subscribers, any new viewers, please, first and foremost, thank you for following us, checking us out. But don't forget to subscribe to us. Want to make sure that you guys take care of that part. Nonetheless, we got a great show up in front of us today. Main thing we're talking about is, hey, pro wrestling. You know, the climate, why we're fans. I think there's a lot to talk about regarding this, but at the same time, it's pretty exciting because if you really think about the reason why we're even doing this in the first place, because we're lifelong fans. I know I could probably be speaking for myself, but I'm sure the rest of you guys can attest to that. So, first and foremost, like looking at it today, it's such a hot product. There's so many different promotions. We got obviously WWE, we got AEW, TNA, some of the indies, New Japan. A lot of us tend to kind of go back and forth with a lot of different promotions. I think a lot of us kind of, let's be honest, kind of stuck with the main ones. But at the end of the day, I kind of just want to go around the circle here. How you guys feel about pro wrestling today?
Me personally, I think it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? Just we got so much going on right now. As far as cross promotions, which to me is one of the biggest things because I'm admittedly a WWE stan. You know what I mean? Like WWE for life. And I'm not gonna lie, when WCW was having that whole beef with WWE, they had the Monday Night Wars. It almost turned me, but I'm admittedly a WWE stan. But the fact that they have a lot of these crossovers going on, it really does make you want to look at the other promotions and see what's going on over there. Just to get a better sense of what's going on in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? No,
for sure. Yeah, and I'm calling my cousin right now because he's sporting that jersey.
Let's go.
I'm assuming now. I'm assuming that was like a peak moment for you. Attitude Era.
Yeah, Attitude Era was the one that had me in it. Like following all the stories from as long as I can, when life is life in it, you still get to stick with it. That was my favorite. And to answer the question today I think it just got way more sexier. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's like the WNBA. It just got way more sexier. You got way more reasons to watch. Man. And the fact that sometimes I go away from it, but they bring me right back.
Yes, sir.
So, don't even get me started. I hit you up hey, who's this Soul Ruka? Kaylani. I said, what is this? So yeah, I think it's just in a more sexy. It's hot right now. It's oh man, what they're doing is great.
I'm assuming HBK is your favorite booker right now.
Yes, as one of my favorite record players. I wish he could staff my job facility the way he has been staffing his. I'm just
be real. You're just being real, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he's just a sexy boy.
Sexy boy, yes, sir.
Mr. Michaels.
You got to do that HBK flex.
Oh, for real. And then the one with the one.
Yeah.
Don't trip anybody with
And I
that
wish
leg, though.
dude, for real, I wish I had the, pow, 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 right in the back.
Oh, pyro.
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
dude.
Jay, how about you, man?
Well, the climate of pro wrestling, you could say, man, we're in the Triple H era, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's been awesome. I mean, the fact that he's booking, he's in charge, you know what's going on, and then it's so easy to access content. I mean, you're on Netflix, which is huge. I mean, you're international now. I mean, if you weren't international before, you international now. You everywhere with Netflix. You're on CW. You got Saturday main events. You're on USA. Then you got Speed on Twitter. And then like I just saw like they were promoting that they have a new Tough Enough, I guess you would kind of say.
Oh, yeah. With the legends, LFG,
Right.
LFG, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you see Undertaker there, like he's gonna be a coach, so he's still around. That's like for the old school cats, you got Undertaker there. You got
That's right.
Bully Ray or Bubba Ray, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
You got cool like coaches there. You got a loaded roster, and you have all these other promotions, like meaning the people who can't cut it in the like WWE. You can find them on TNA. You can find them on AEW, which is kind of like the new WCW. Don't hate me on that, but
well, it's kind of interesting. You're saying if they can't cut it, so it's almost like
okay. I was saying like if they can't, let's say if they can't, it's such a loaded roster, right? And WWE, right? Like so, if you can't find time there or you can't get some shine, you can be like MJF, like hey, y'all didn't take a chance on me. Look at me, I'm shining right here, and it gives a different platform.
There you go.
And then you have production. Oh man, production is. I mean, they killing it, man. They got you see that what happened in Royal Rumble with that little sports ticker thing they got looking like ESPN.
Very, very sports presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got that. They got the CG, the pyros, and entrances. It's like it's next level. You're using social media now to like help with the feuds or to create feuds. Even some stars. Like we're in a really good like. I'd say wrestling is. I mean, it's pure entertainment, and it's everywhere now.
No, for sure.
It's pop culture, I would say.
Yes.
Definitely pop culture. You
I
can see you. I'm sorry.
No,
like for example, Rock. What's Rock? Rock's one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. John Cena, one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. And I grew up like Hogan doing B movies. Roddy Piper doing B movies. Like these guys are actually doing like Hollywood A flicks. You know what I'm saying? So it's wrestling is pop culture, I would say.
Yeah, no, like I do agree with everything you're saying here. Just because, like, if you really think about just the aspect of pop culture, think about like all of the different things right now, like especially like what's actual sports athletes out there. Like the major, like NFL, NBA, like the references they will do, like MMA, if anything, right? Like MMA is so big right now. Also, granted, like there is TKO. But then a lot of like these fighters too will still reference a lot of their favorite old school wrestlers. Like clearly, I think Izzy did like the Undertaker intro. Like he came out with like the walkout with the hat and everything. And Colby Covington, he comes out with like the Kurt Angle theme song. So like you see a lot of these references, and we can even say like some of the promos that they're doing for MMA is sparking up feuds. It's almost like reminiscent of how pro wrestlers do it. So like it's just like getting all that hype, but a lot of that seems to kind of root back to pro wrestling. So like clearly, pro wrestling has an influence on pop culture. You said movies.
I would say also that like you have people from pop culture also, or like
the big fans,
the universe outside. Yeah, like Ronda Rousey. People forget. Hey, this is one of the biggest MMA stars. She was actually a performer. She signed up. You have Jake Paul. Or Logan Paul. One of them Paul things. Yeah. Logan Paul. There you go. Logan Paul, he's actually a performer. He actually gave up boxing, right? And he's actually a WWE talent. And then Bad Bunny. You saw Bad Bunny. I mean, these are real real deal Holyfield people, man.
Mhm.
Like they're actually coming, they're performing, and the product is hot.
Yeah, and it's funny though because like I can't even go back as far as like old school MMA, right? Like you got people like Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, Tank Abbott. You know, Mike Tyson crossover, like that whole promotion, like going into WrestleMania with Austin and HBK. Like let's like you know, like we can definitely go down that rabbit hole, but it's pretty evident like pro wrestling definitely has a influence, you know, like out there in society and you know clearly in pop culture. But nonetheless, you know, like it's kind of interesting. You know, we talk about like the climate of pro wrestling today. I kind of want to know like where you guys kind of at least started, you know, into like how you guys became fans, because it just seems like all of us kind of seem to be like born around the same time, but I don't know exactly if all of us became fans at the same time. So I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, for me, it was. Remember, I don't remember how old I was, but my grandpa had told me, "Hey, Nick, come watch this real quick," and it was that one match where Undertaker got put in the casket, and then they did the whole spirit coming out of it. I don't remember who he was wrestling at that time, but I remember watching that match. Undertaker got put in the casket, and then the thing exploded where it looked like his soul came out, and then he was on the screen where he was in the casket, and then he looked at the.
Oh shit!
Yokozuna.
Yeah.
It was against Yoko. Yeah. Right. So that was the very first match I ever saw. So my grandpa was watching it, and he was like, "Yeah." He told me, "Hey, come sit down and watch this." And I was instantly hooked. I was like, "Oh, this is super cool." And that's about the time I started watching wrestling.
Oh man, nice. Jay, what about you?
Man, you know, this might reveal my age a little bit, but you know, so wrestling, yeah, man. Let me tell you something, brother. Like, wrestling used to be on like only on Saturdays, right? So I would watch Saturday morning cartoons, right? And then like in the afternoons, that's when WWE product would come out, right? And you stop watching cartoons, then it transfers to WWE, and I just like fell in love with the whole theater of it, and just like, you know, I'm cheering for the faces. You know, that's how it is. You know, you're a little kid, you see, that's what it is, right? So and then I would go like, and again, this would be on the weekend, right? So I would go to family parties, my cousins, they'd be like watching it. I'd be like, oh shit. They're watching the same thing I'm watching, right? And we all get into it and all that stuff. And then sometimes the parties would be at night, and it's Saturday, so that's when I believe at the time, like, again, this is gonna be old, like Glow. I don't know if y'all remember that. The gorgeous ladies of wrestling, right? So I'd be at my cousin Kat's family's house. I'd be watching it with them, and Saturday night main event. So it was just like really like it was like a family thing, I guess you could say, and a kid thing, because you would go Saturday morning to the afternoons, and then, you know, Hogan's rise, man. You just see Hogan's rise. Hogan was the man. He was wrestling in the 80s or whatever it was. That guy was like, he was all about it, man. There was no wrestling without this man. And then Saturday, again, I go back to Saturday, right? That's when you know, I could catch some of the WCW.
Yeah.
You know, I saw Four Horsemen. I saw like Sting versus Muda. Here's that, bro. This Muda guy, man, looking like a ninja, and I'm like, oh shoot, man, I'm a kid, and this guy, man, he doing all these flips, tricks, all these things. I was hooked. Then got like a neighbor, and this is how old it is. For some reason, he got like videotapes of Muda in like Japan. I was like, bro, shoot, oh man, I got exposed to New Japan wrestling. You know, Hakushi and all them things. Good Lord, man. See, y'all ever seen Hakushi with all them tats? That fool tatted out, doing flips, cartwheels, all that thing. It was like, I guess it would be like my first introduction to kind of lucha style, kind of lucha libre kind of style of wrestling. And then I saw, you know, you see Muda facing Arn Anderson, and then just like Nick had pointed out earlier, his first match was Yoko, right? Like he saw Yoko versus Undertaker. I see this big sumo wrestler. I'm like, whoa, who's this? And I've always been cheering for faces, right? But when this Yokozuna's gimmick was so cool, man, I was like, no, hey, that's the dude. And I was first heel I ever cheered for, man. And when I guess you could say all the way to Monday Night Raw, right? So fast forward to Monday Night Raw. I remember watching the first episode of that, right? Yokozuna was the first ones. I believe he was like one of the first people they showed. And remember, wrestling's only on Saturdays, on weekends, a weekend thing. So Monday Night Raw being like on a Monday, oh shoot, you can watch it, right? And fast forward to that, you go to, I think I took a little break, right? A little break. And then I see Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon is in WCW. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm flipping channels, WCW. You see Razor Ramon. And then the whole NWO thing. Oh, man. Hogan turned heel. He made being heel so cool with that NWO thing. You got people who don't watch wrestling going like this, going for life. You know what I'm saying? And then I guess that time you could say I got introduced to like cruiserweights. Bro, cruiserweights in the 90s, Ultimo Dragon, Eddie Guerrero, and even Benoit and Jericho were considered cruiserweights. Just throwing their body, they're just killing it, man. And probably started watching around there. And then I got to Rock versus Hogan, right? That was epic. The break after that. So I missed all the CM Punks, all that stuff. I wasn't around for that. Flipping channels. And 2017, I see Nakamura in NXT. I was like, who's this Nakamura guy? You start watching Nakamura. You start seeing all the NXT cats. And man, NXT, like, bro, they were killing it. That was the golden era of NXT where they're like just ripping it with Finn Balor, Asuka, all these crazy people that, they're in the main roster now. And here we are. I haven't stopped watching ever since, man.
Hey, I want to kind of say though, like like your story here, your long-term storytelling here of how you became a fan.
Right? My bad, man.
I've been a fan. It's you're like kind of a historian, if anything. And that's why I love like talking to you, because you covered a lot of eras there, and not just specifically in one promotion. So it's interesting because when we grew up. And I'll kind of like get my cousin jumping on this. We grew up in Hawaii, very similar to Nick. Programming wasn't necessarily, like as accessible back then. And all of the kids don't know this. Like you got social media, you got like YouTube, all that stuff, good stuff, accessible to you, free. Being able to see clips, even actual matches on those platforms, and it's crazy because. Hearing you, Jay, talk about what you were able to have growing up, it's like, I wish I had that access, and just because I would actually feel like I would be a little bit more knowledgeable beyond the main promotions, because some of the stuff you couldn't catch on TV, and it's interesting because I'll even say, like, when I grew up watching, I had to watch VHSs. VHS videos, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm not even like watching live TV here. Everything's pre-recorded, like I think live is now the thing. But back in the day, this is how old I'm saying I am without saying how old I am, is we're using Betamaxes, VHSs, we're going to like local barbershops to go pick up like these videos. So it's like watching a pay-per-view when it's already like a month out or a month done. And you're now just catching it, but at the same time, you're kind of in the know only because of those like weekend shows, like your Saturday nights or main events. And WCW had their own Saturday night version. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, like just being able to catch up with what's going on in the world of wrestling, but very limited access. I don't know if you guys remember too, like they used to have like those hotlines with Mean Gene.
Oh yeah. So I just wanna jump in on this one. So like you were saying, right, in Hawaii, like access is kind of limited, and pay-per-views were kind of expensive. You know what I mean? So
hell yeah,
yeah. So you know what I mean? Like I remember only watching WWE when I could watch it on TV. Also, we had I remember watching New Japan when I was a kid because it was on KIKU, right? So those were the two. I couldn't tell you who was on New Japan. I just knew that they were kind of crazy compared to WWE.
Okay.
But I remember when we were growing up, there was this one guy. Shout out to Chad Garma, Jojo. You know Chad.
Of course, man.
Yeah, shout out to Chad,
Garma,
bro.
man.
Bro,
Garma.
that guy. That guy was on it, bro. He watched.
He was like the Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan of our school.
Yeah. Bro,
That dude like read
like,
Hogan the most.
Yeah,
he did.
and he wore all the NWO shirts, bro. He had all the wrestling memorabilia.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like this guy. If there was any other person that I knew that was into wrestling as much as us, it was him. If not even more, you know what I mean. And
for
so
sure.
I remember always asking him about the pay-per-views and stuff, and he would just tell me what's going on. So at least we'll be caught up by the time we get to watch the next episode of Raw or Monday Nitro. You know what I mean. So that was basically how I got a lot of my information.
Dude, and I want to point this out too, like what you just said. You know, like I think the cool thing is when you were going to school around that time, like specifically Tuesdays, right? Tuesdays,
right?
Or I'm sorry, Mondays and Tuesdays, because
Mondays
you're like recapping whatever like pay-per-view happened the day before, if you caught it. At the same time, you're like recapping on Tuesday about like the Monday night shows. And it's crazy because you start to see like the division between which fan base you're dealing with. You know, are you a WCW guy? You're a WWF guy. Back then, being a WWF, right? So it's kind of funny,
right.
You know, like you had those clicks, the clicks before the actual clicks, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it's wild because like I remember with Jasper, I don't know if you even recall this, but we live in the same neighborhood, but like not like next to each other or whatnot, but. Yeah, whenever we always linked up, it's like we would link up with like all the toys and like even the video games back in that NES days. Remember that very first WWF game? Like all 8-bit shit. And that show's like so OG, but at the same time, it's like you couldn't even do the finishers yet. You just gotta just beat them up until like their like health depletes, but like you had to like make up the finisher like just with their generic moveset.
Dude, hey. Yeah, and I remember your house being the one that had the toys. So just to like piggyback off of all you guys, man, like Uncle Mario. See, and it's crazy how you guys like point out that was limited access, but my Uncle Mario, right? Uncle Mario, he always had it, and how me and him.
I don't want to know how.
Like, yeah, I don't like. For some reason, it was always around. And if I wasn't in where like we stayed near Waipahu, I was in Kanyohe when I was little.
Oh yeah.
My grandma did. Yeah, right. And the living room had no toys, so that's where I go to your house, right? So all I had was this big old couch and this long like living room with these big old pillows and my uncle, and we wrestled and. It brings me back to humble beginnings when I didn't have toys. Dude, we had wrestling, and he showed me his Hulk, like he liked Hulk, right? Like Hulk Hogan. And then I saw Ultimate Warrior, and I was like, "Whoa, that's how I feel inside." Like, dude, let's go, like, dude. And then you get shown the Rockers. You guys did the poll on the Rockers. I was like, "Whoa, dude," you know. Yeah. And then as they transitioned, HBK, but. Yeah, man, it was humble beginnings, and I would go to your house. You would have the toys, and we would like. So it's a little bit of Iron Man Nick. Somebody showed me, which was my uncle, you know, and then Jay Soul was the family thing, and then the fact that we had limited access, and it just, dude. So that's why like wrestling kind of sticks with me, regardless if I leave it or not. It pulls me back in, and I'm one of those even till this day. Like you guys see it, like when I text about even Jacob Fatu, I'm like, this guy makes me so believe it that you know that's what you got to do for me. I'm looking at you like, dude, your character is him. And then when I see the Yokozunas, I was like, whoa, bro, he's up there. He big like me. And he's over there wrestling. And I always picture me because my uncle, right? Uncle Mario was swole. So I was like, you're my Lex Luger. You gonna body body slam me, but I'm gonna get you, dude. I'm gonna jump off this couch and sumo sit you, bro. So it starts with humble beginnings. They'll never leave me, like, because I didn't have toys at my grandma's house. Like, she didn't have it like that, but I had the little. Like, I had these pillows that I could clothesline and jump off and elbow drop all the time. Like,
the futons too, right?
Yeah,
like those fold out futons.
Foldable ones,
yeah, dude.
That was a wrestling mat.
And my floor was good. Hell yeah. And my floor, it didn't matter if I landed on the floor. I slept there. So it wasn't like, it didn't hurt. Like, so, yeah. And then now, and to you guys' point, now it's like, it's everywhere, where it was just WWF. Now there's just so much. It's amazing how it grown, and the people that still keep it going. Like, the fact that these new stars could keep us in it. Like,
absolutely,
it's awesome, man. It's awesome. They do a lot. Yeah, it's a lot all in one. Dude.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about all this stuff, and like I just had this like memory too, like, you know, like because you're a kid, right? Like at the same time, like our parents are working, like they're the ones like providing. You couldn't get access to a lot of that, like, you know, like merch and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's like, I remember I had the toys, I had like the action figures, right? But I wanted the ring. I was like, how can I get the ring? You know, like my parents wouldn't like budge. So I used to take all my old like shoe boxes, you know, like all the old shoe boxes, and just like all the old shoelaces from all the shoes that I don't use no more. I had to make my own wrestling ring from that shit. And then using like popsicle sticks for the goal posts or for the ring posts. So it's like, you know, like constructing that, like I had to be like creative, right? And then on top of that, like you know, your clothing, the merchandise and stuff like that. I remember mom actually took like old garments, like, or just like old shirts, and she used to make me and my brother like those like rocker apparel, you know, like the shreds. Yeah, like so they're like all tight on the ends, and like you got the cutout holes and all that shit. Dude, like it's like, as a kid, you had to like improvise, right? Like, it's just like, it's crazy because like that's how much of a fan I was growing up, and just like making whatever I had, you know, like just from the things I had, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's just like, I think the passion was there early on, and I was just like, man, this is just fun, because clearly, you know, growing up, I just felt like the one person, or interesting enough, the first match I actually saw was a replay of WrestleMania 5. It was actually the tag team match with Strike Force. You guys remember them, Strike Force?
Yeah, Tito Santana
and Rick Martel. And they were up against the Brainbuster. So it was kind of like a mid match, tag team match. And that was the one, it stuck in my brain significantly because I was a fan of those two, Tito and Rick. And then Rick turns on Tito because he gets hit by that flying elbow accidentally. He didn't want to like jump back in the ring, and I was like asking my dad, like, what the hell's going on? Like, why is his partner leaving? And it's just like those moments to me like kind of stick out in my mind. I'm like, damn, you know, like that was like one of the first matches I ever saw on VHS, and it just kind of like unraveled. It led into very similar to like all of you guys, you know, talking about like the weekly episodes and, you know, watching on Saturdays, Mondays. And the funny thing is, I was never too. I was always like on a strict schedule too. I could never watch Monday Night Raw or Nitro live. I would have to get my info from everybody the next day. But I did try to like. I remember trying to sneak out of the bedroom, trying to like creep into the hallway because I know my dad. My dad's watching it, so my dad the next morning would kind of like give me the info as far as what happened, and at the same time, I'm getting the rest of that info from like all my classmates, but. I'm like, man, that's how much I was like so into it. Like, I'm like trying to find every single way to just like be engaged, whether it's like trying to find get the episodes or find the merch, play the toys, and just like, you know, even talk right now like with you guys. You know, it's crazy being a lifelong fan. But at the same time, you know, I do think about the past and now. Of all these different like fantasy bookings, you know what I mean? Like I know like out there the IWC likes to kind of fantasy book. I kind of want to go like with Jay on this one real quick because it's clear to me you're big on Japan and Japanese wrestlers. It's like, who would you have wanted to see, or what's your fantasy booking for you?
I mean,
it's got to have some sort of. I would have loved to see Muda. I mean, if we're talking old school, right? I mean, we're talking old school. Or we're talking
fantasy book. It could be anybody, right? Like just for you, like
specifically. If it's like old school, I mean, when you're talking about Japanese wrestling, you got to go with the GOAT. The GOAT is Great Muda. He's the innovator. Mm-hmm. You have all these current wrestlers right now who've stolen his moves, or I want to say stolen, who have been emulating his moves, like Shining Wizards, Muda locks, these cartwheel, handspring, elbows. That's all Muda right there.
People's elbow.
And definitely. Even The Rock admitted he got that move from Muda, and when he was promoting the film Hercules, I believe that's what he was doing that in Japan. I would say Muda would probably like I would have liked to see him like against Hogan here, or against Ultimate Warrior, or against an Undertaker, but like do a good good story with it. It's got to make sense, and I would have liked to see Muda with a good manager, but again, it's fantasy booking, so it is. And currently, right now, if you're asking me fantasy booking right now, I gotta get my Rock versus Roman. I mean,
okay.
Come on, man. Fair. You Cody crybabies. You cost me my goddamn Rock versus Roman last year. Would you I got to finish the story. Goddamn, this is still real to me, damn it. You know what I'm saying? And all I'm saying is, why would I not want to see Rock versus Roman? Cody going to be around he here, right? You see him. Yeah. He ain't leaving. This is his job. Rock, he kind of doing guest appearances. I know it's his, I think he's in the board now, but
yeah,
man, Rock versus Roman, we ain't gonna get that because time is limited. So we should have got that. I just think the WWE universe and Triple H is a good guy and he listened to them, but I would have Vince McMahon that and forced that issue. I would have force-fed the people, hey, you're gonna like Rock versus Roman, you're gonna watch that thing and you're gonna get that. And I would have been.
Well, it's crazy because I think there were reports showing like back when they had initially wanted to do WrestleMania at SoFi, that I think the inaugural season that the Rams and Chargers were supposed to play, but that was the pandemic year. And I understood that was supposed to be the platform for Rock and Roman. It was supposed to lead to that at that time, but it didn't obviously happen for actual, obvious reasons, right? But it's funny because now the Rock is on the board. You think you kind of have a little bit more pull here to just kind of like say, you know what? In my opinion, if you want to do it, he can do it, right? That's just how I look at it. He can call the shots technically. He's got the final boss power.
I think he's very passionate about the industry, which is cool about Rock. Is he's not going to half-ass it. Like I heard to get the last WrestleMania, he had to every move he said he had a ring set up or something like that he was actually working so he's not going to half-ass it. So that shows you the respect and love The Rock has for that business. That if I'm going to do a program, I'm all in. You know? So I mean, we are in Road to WrestleMania. I got kind of a little hope that maybe Rock versus Roman can happen because Roman is not attached to a title at the moment. So I could, but again, I mean, we'll see if it's a rush storyline. We saw what happened last year, and the WWE universe will reject it.
Yeah, well, there's still time. You know what? It's funny because The Rock's always talked about being 20 steps ahead, or he's mentioned this, right? So who knows? We might end up seeing a swerve. I don't know. I think right now it doesn't show like he's actually going to be part of WrestleMania, but time will tell. Anything can happen, right? Never say never. Let's just keep it as that. But at the end of the day, talking about some of the fantasy bookings, Jasper, I for some reason I feel like it's gonna tie into women, but
they're the ones who brought me back. They brought me back into it, and then it was and then I was like, hey, but they really wrestling, they really hooping, these guys, these ladies are really doing it. And then you put me on the Julias and the Stephanie back here. I was like, yes, gorgeous. Gotta give it. You do, but like I don't stay in the looks too long because they really wrestle. They really be, dude. Wow.
So
like the stuff they do today, man.
Who would it be? Who's your fantasy booking?
Right now, because I saw her do this to this. Oh, look! What's crazy is we are gonna start off with the women, bro. And it is current, right? It's crazy. Especially, I saw her wrestle even more last night. Okay, so Piper and Jordan, because I seen Jordan Grace slammer the way she did, dude. These two got to collide for me. If they haven't yet.
So wait, who was it? You just say Jordan and who?
Bianca.
And Piper. Her name.
Oh, Piper.
Is it Piper?
Piper Niven? Piper Niven?
Piper Niven.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
She just wrestled last night. She wrestled.
So
EST.
the big lady, the EST is Bianca Belair.
Yeah. So
Bianca Belair, the one who slammed Piper. Yeah. So the black girl is Bianca.
Yes. So Piper and Jordan right now for the ladies.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a crazy slam. But then I really want to see fantasy. Like it's gonna happen maybe. But Jey Uso and that Gunther dude.
Well,
that's the dude. That's who.
Jey and Gunther ran it back like 3 times.
No, I know, but he's gonna go get the title from him right now because of.
It's just for the title.
Yeah.
The extra variable here.
For right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, because everything I wanted to see off of RKO and like HBKs, they've amazed me. So I can't really call what kind of fantasy. But for right now in the current, I'm gonna see these ladies collide, and I hope Jey Uso takes that title from Gunther. That's my fantasy right now. He chooses him. And goes to go get it.
I thought you were gonna throw out there like China versus Rhea or some shit.
Oh snap! No, snap, dude.
That's what I thought you were gonna do.
Rhea's fine. No, because we just came from Rhea Liv, and I'm like, ooh, let's keep that going. Long-term story tell with that.
Long-term storytelling.
Yeah. Rhea Liv. No need China. Hey, keep her. Yeah. Rhea Liv. Like that.
What about you, Nick? Who's your fantasy booking?
You know what? For me, the 2 matches that I would have loved to see, unfortunately, both of the guys are dead. The two matches I would have loved to see, and the first one would have only looked good in WWF. I don't know if it would have worked out in WCW because of how WCW has ran the whole climate. I would have loved to see Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels Run It Back Part 2. But this time for the world title, and finally give that man the title he deserved, bro. He's the greatest to never get it.
So you would have had him as Razor Ramon, not Scott Hall?
Nah, I would have had him as Razor Ramon.
Okay,
bro. I liked it. I mean,
gotcha.
I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see a part 2 to that. You know, bro, give it one more run on that ladder match, because that first one that they did, legendary.
Well, so that would have been a great match. It would have been their trilogy, if anything, because they ran it back with the ladder match.
Oh, did they? Yeah. See.
Yeah. Okay, so they ran it back for that ladder match. I think Razor took the first one. HBK won the second one. So, yeah, they would have been a trilogy.
See, I didn't even see the second one. Okay, so that would have been perfect. And then have Razor win the title off of Shawn.
For
that
world title.
Been great. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, the world title.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bro, and Razor would have been a great champion, I'll be honest. And the second one that I wanted, bro, I was a huge fan of his. I was trying to get the costume and everything together so I could do it for Halloween and everything. I wanted to see Bray Wyatt versus The Undertaker. That was one of my matches, bro.
Got you.
That would have been.
I see what that one. Long-term storytelling.
Let me ask you this though: which version of Bray? Because at WrestleMania 31, they ran. Oh, so you want the Fiend versus the Phenom?
It's gotta be the.
Yeah. Okay. The Fiend versus the Phenom.
One is the one?
I see.
Which one's? Oh Lord, Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. So
that's a good one.
The one that was in the Firefly Funhouse. So
Yeah.
So one of the things for me is that I took a break from wrestling. I want to say in early 2000 teens. I want to say somewhere between 2012 and 2014.
Gotcha.
I stopped watching wrestling because I felt like it was monotonous. I think that was the point where I felt like Vince was not listening to the audience, and he was at that point where he's like, you know what, I have a good thing going. I'm just gonna keep running with how I want to run it. But then at the same time, the audience that he's supposed to be, entertaining is not being entertained, and then I was starting to look at wrestling like, man, I'm not enjoying it anymore. So I stopped watching it for a long time, and then, along comes. So I kind of picked back up when NXT came back around, but I still wasn't watching it. And then, I called it. You could even ask my wife when I seen Husky Harris. I was like, dude, he's got something. This may not be his character yet, but he's got something. So I called it. So he disappeared for a while, went back to NXT, got repackaged, and then when I saw him come to Raw, I was like, that's it. That's what's gonna make me come back to wrestling. And then when he came back as Bray Wyatt, and then and the family, you know what I mean? Yeah, that was what brought me back to wrestling.
Well, shoot, I don't know if you remember, Cuzzo, Mania 31, right? We were there,
dude.
We were there for that one,
dude.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Dude, I can still remember everything leading up to that. He set up we went to some event the day before or something like that.
Oh my gosh. We got to talk about that real quick. Just real quick. I got to share this with you guys. My cousin here, he is so infectious with his energy. He actually got Roman Reigns to acknowledge him.
No way.
Dude, do you remember that? You remember that?
Cena? He was fighting Cena, right?
No. Okay, you're talking about Rusev. So no, there was no, because I remember this specifically. We were walking around. We couldn't get in line for his autograph, but you were so loud. You were just like calling Roman. You were like Roman. And you're like throwing like the shaka, and you actually got his attention. He looked at us and he threw it back at us.
I remember looking at it. I am,
dude. It was wild. It was wild. Like you were just like getting people's attention, and like going back to the Rusev thing. This dude literally goes up to him, does the "you can't see me." Rusev just like shook his head at him, like all disappointed. He was just like,
he was mad,
like, mad dog. He was just mad dogging it. That was too funny.
He could have slammed me.
That was just too funny.
Hey, Husky got a way to put me in like this, because first I was like, whoa, are we really going to see this stuff? It's like my first time actually seeing this stuff in person. And when he put me in that element, just like, and he's like, hey, dude, just be you. Let's have fun, right? And I was like, all right, do that. I'm in the game. Like, it was crazy. Even DDP, what? I was like, hey, one time for us, dude. Man, I don't know. It's weird. It just comes out. Sometimes it goes good, and sometimes it goes bad. But that was a great night.
That was fun, dude. Man. Like it's just like, man, those moments like just kind of stick them in our head. Like the fact that you got Roman to acknowledge you. It's just like before he even started with the whole like tribal chief gimmick too.
Yes.
It's just funny.
Just third look too,
dude. Yeah. Maybe you gave him that influence to start throwing up the ones. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it could have led to that. Hey, that's some long-term storytelling shit right there.
That's some long-term story.
That's fun.
And nonetheless, man, like I think
that was lit.
I think it was, and like part of that actual Mania too. Like it really triggered my nostalgia, specifically with that whole Sting Triple H match, because growing up as a kid watching that whole Monday Night Wars, we definitely got to talk about that part. Seeing how that transpired into NWO coming out to help out Sting, and then you had DX helping out Triple H. Just the names, you had Hogan, Nash, Hall, and then you also had DX with pretty much Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, X-Pac. And then HBK coming out, super kicking Sting, dude, like that whole match right there. It's funny because I could hear it in the crowd. You know, like some of these people are just like getting too critical. They're like, oh, but they're really buddies in real life. I'm like, it's not even about that. It's about the moment where you pretty much had the whole Monday Night Wars, which was probably, in my opinion, the peak of wrestling. You know, not to say that right now is not great, but that just had so many people invested with two different companies specifically going at each other in their respective stars. And that was a moment where you could say, like, you got to see all these guys come together and really, really just bring back that nostalgia factor and in its prime, I would say, like with those names that were so relevant, and just see it all happen in front of you. See that you know, like, again, that's why we call our podcast a long-term storytelling, because when you see shit like that, that's the kind of stuff that gets me as a fan. You know, like it kind of hits me. You know, where it's like, man, I grew up on that shit. I'm seeing it in person now. And that was my first Mania too. It's like, how perfect, you know. Like, I'm a Niner fan. We're watching it at the Niner Stadium, and seeing that as a fan in person, I don't know. Like, to me, it's hard to like top that moment, because, you know, like, talking about fantasy booking, you know, like, I'll be honest, like one of my fantasy bookings for me specifically that I thought was going to actually happen, but I'm not going to say that the alternative was wrong, would have been Hogan and Austin, because those two, in their own right, made wrestling where it is today. And I know, like, the whole dilemma where I thought it was going to be Austin and Hogan, knowing that Hogan and the NWO were now part of WWE. And it's crazy because it ended up being Hogan and Rock, which is, like, not to take away from that moment. That was pretty epic. You know, that, to me, top three matches all time.
That was long-term storytelling.
Dude, that is like why you want to be a fan, right? Like, to see moments like that happen in front of you. But yeah, like Austin and Hogan, like, it never happened. To me, that would have been epic, you know, like that's definitely one of the matches I wanted to see. And I don't know who can't say that Taker and Sting was not one of your fantasy bookings. Those two. Like, the fact that didn't happen, it does upset me, you know what I mean? Like, not too many things upset me when it comes to wrestling, but that was like a missed opportunity. You know, and it's crazy because when you think about, like, Taker having his retirement match against AJ, which, like, the way they did it, the cinematic approach, phenomenal. You know, like, and, you know, like, no pun intended. Like, yeah, AJ Styles, great wrestler. You know, and they pulled off one of the best matches I've seen, and it wasn't even like your typical traditional type of match. You know, and credit where credit's due. You know, like, you know, I think Matt Hardy, you know, talking about cinematic wrestling, you know, like, he kind of put the whole, you know, like, broken universe out there, and like, that approach was just so unique and so different in its own right. I'll even say, like, when you talk about, like, that type of, like, production, you know, I think Lucha Underground doesn't get enough credit for this too, right? Like, they did like a different approach, or they incorporate some of these cinematic sequences. May not necessarily have been the match itself, but, you know, like, that component made it feel different, and it was cool. It was cool for what it was. But yeah, Sting, Taker was definitely one of my fantasy matches. I wish I could have saw that. I understand why they went Triple H, Sting. You know, clearly, like, we didn't see the long term or the big picture there. I thought it was a big payoff. It was great. And yeah, Austin and Hogan, man, like, those are like my true fantasy bookings, if anything. And like I said, you know, like, not too many things make me upset, but I'm sure, like, things do kind of trigger us, you know, like, there's things that we see that kind of trigger us as fans, you know, and I'm going to tie this in, like, the IWC. Very vocal. It's a vocal fan base, probably the most toxic fan base out there out of anything, just because you got stands, you got marks, you got tribalism, you know, like, what do you guys
comment section?
They got a comment section, keyboard warriors, like, we can go on and on about this, right? Like, yeah. What's your guys' opinion on this shit? Because it's just interesting. Like, everybody seems to have a voice all of a sudden about what happens in pro wrestling, which they're entitled to. But how do you guys feel about it? It's like, is it kind of like overkill, or is it like people are just not happy here?
Let me start this one off. So, I wanted to share with you guys a story about when I went to WrestleMania 27. This was when
Georgia,
Alberto
right?
Del Rio. Yep, Georgia. So this is when Alberto Del Rio was. Hey, he was coming up. This was when Edge. This was Edge's last WrestleMania before he supposedly retired.
Okay.
And then I never really was a fan of Alberto Del Rio. But I remember, so we got our chairs from WrestleMania 27, and then we went to UPS to go ship our chairs back to Hawaii so we could have our memorabilia back at home.
Oh yeah.
There was this group of Australian people, and I just remember this guy. I was talking to one of my friends. I was talking to my wife, and I was like, you know what? I don't like that they're pushing Alberto Del Rio so quickly, because he had just got on the scene and he was already main eventing, and I was like, I'm not really a fan of his. You know what I mean? Like his style it looks kind of dangerous. If he was pulling it off safely, good for him and good for the wrestlers, because it was at that point it wasn't as obvious to me, but it looked his wrestling style looked kind of rough. And I was just telling them, I was like, I'm not really a fan of him. And then this guy, one of the guys turns around and he goes, yeah, but you don't know what you're talking about. And he starts mouthing off, and I'm like, dude, listen, this is my opinion. And I get it. If you want to talk about it, yeah, let's talk about it as wrestling fans. But if you're going to come at me like that, bro, then we can step outside and we can handle this. You know what I mean? Like bro, I'm not. And then he backed off, which is what, because it did get a little too far in that situation. But for me personally, I think everybody online, like you said, now everybody has access to say their opinions, right? But everybody's online making opinions, and they say things out of pocket because they're not close enough to get punched in the face. And you know what I mean? Like,
No, I'm sorry to cut you off on that part, but
no,
man,
what?
you're the last person I want to step outside with, bro.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for having conversations like about wrestling, bro. And I don't expect everybody to ever agree with all of my opinions on wrestling, right? I was like, bro, you like what you like, and I may cheer for the face, you may cheer for the heel, and we're gonna have different reasons for why we're cheering for that, or it might be vice versa. But in the end, like, you should be able to just have the differing opinions, but enjoy wrestling for what it is. You know what I mean?
Agree to disagree and move on, right?
I
exactly.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, man. And it's funny because, like, I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but Nick and I, we used to wrestle in high school, right? So we were part of the wrestling team.
Oh.
Clearly not as good as Nick, but Nick is a fucking bear. He is a fucking bear. Like, if you see me in person, this guy makes me look like a fucking, like a luchador, like a he's like
cruiserweight.
Like I'm a cruiserweight. Yeah, Nick would make me look like a fucking cruiserweight. I'm gonna leave it as that. This dude, you do not want to mess with. He is a kind soul. Clearly,
I am. I'm very kind.
I'll use the word teddy bear, but there is the word bear there still.
But still a bear.
He's still a bear.
Teddy bear's accurate, bro. Teddy bear's accurate.
But no, man, dude, like I feel you. Like, two people, like, I get it. You're passionate, but damn, it don't have to be personal.
Yeah. Be passionate, but don't make it personal. And that's kind of where he took it. He took it into a personal realm, and I was like, can we just enjoy wrestling for what it is? It's wrestling, bro. Come on. It's like, you don't got to take it that far. That's too much.
It's still real to him, though, dog.
No, you're right. You're right. It's still real to him.
It is. I don't know. How are you guys feeling, though? Like, Jay, Jasper, like, I don't know if you guys ever get triggered by some of these IWC stands and tribalism. How do you guys react to that shit?
I don't know too much about the IWC because of, like, to be honest, but just on a general standpoint on Iron Man Nick, man, I agree with that. Like, we could be as passionate and but just keep the BS out of it, like the stuff that that doesn't belong in it. Like, We can enjoy it. It's already violent. It's already toxic. Whatever. Like we can still enjoy it without that stuff in it.
That's true. No, it's always going to be part of it. Let's be real. I think.
No, for real. Like football, right?
Yeah, like you just kind of like know when to like engage. I would say, because if you got to engage in every single thing that's being said out there, you'll be tired as fuck. It's just exhausting, man.
No, put your belt up. Put your belt up.
Dude. It's crazy because I'll even say this, like I went to my very first AEW show. It was like 2 years ago. They had a show out in the forum, and it was me. I went solo, and I'm over there just kind of like in the mix of all that's happening. Clearly, AEW is like a hot product at that time, and just to kind of see some of like their roster, it was cool. Like I'm very open minded. Like I still consider myself being diehard WWE, but hey, man, there's been a lot of different talent that like made their way to WWE, or even just like caught my attention for that matter, right? I'll say this, like Penta was definitely one of the guys, and it's funny because I didn't really envision him being part of WWE because of his style of wrestling and just like what he was doing on AEW, but that guy just had something different about him, and little bias here. The dude is like a George Kittle fan. Kittle's a Niner. So I ain't gonna lie, that kind of plays into it, And I'll throw this in there too. Like, that's why I'm a big Bailey fan. She's a Niner fan, so I'll throw that out there too. But going back to AEW, that one, it was Dynamite. So, I'm sitting over there. I hear a little bit of like the chatter around me, like you got this one guy talking about that match where we were about to watch the main event. It was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, I believe, against the Death Triangle. So it was like with Penta, Rey Fenix, and Pac. So the 3-on-3, they hell of a match. They brought out the ladders and they were just doing some crazy ass spots. But prior to the match, it's funny. I hear this guy right next to me talking about like, oh, you're gonna love this. Like this main event is gonna kick ass. They're gonna have like Penta, the Luchadors, and Rey, and then his homie, I could tell, was a newbie to AEW. Like he was referencing Rey Mysterio, and he's like, "Oh, Rey Mysterio is gonna be here," and this dude's like, "No, this guy's better than that guy. He's a better Rey." I'm like I held myself back. I had to like
blasphemy right there.
I had to bite my lips and just like not entertain this right now because it's gonna get ugly. But yes, to your point, like it's blasphemous. Why you say that? Yeah. Like how disrespectful is that? Like the better Rey? Like are you fucking kidding me? Like did you hear yourself right there? The better Rey? That is total disrespect to Rey Mysterio. Like, but that's the kind of shit that drives me insane. Like, just like the nonsensical comments that people make. I'm like, not even well thought. Like,
right?
Where's Penta now? Where's Penta? He's in WWE. Clearly, he's left.
With the big dogs now.
He's with the big dogs. And Rey wants out. The better Rey. He wants out. He wants to leave AEW. So what does that say about you and your tribalism? Like that's the kind of shit that pisses me off. Like right there, and it's just like. Like being there, I'm like, I'm enjoying it as I don't want to say I'm an outsider. Like, even though I'm a big WWE fan, I'm not an outsider. I just love pro wrestling. I think it's cool. Yeah. I think it's cool that AEW exists. I think it's not the same product. And that's another topic that we can discuss this on, but it's not the same. At the end of the day, quit comparing. If you enjoy this shit, enjoy it. There's no need to like really bring down the other companies for that matter, or bring down the other wrestler. Where are you going with this? Like, fine to have your opinion, but to me, it just doesn't make any sense to like create these like, different like these 10 topics or conversations. Like it's triggering to me. But at the end of the day, like I did withhold myself. I wasn't gonna like. I got a few drinks in me. I'm not gonna like go down that route. I don't want to get myself kicked out, or even let alone like lose my privileges going to future AEW events. Because granted, I did end up going to other AEW events, and I still enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed going to that. It was, I think, Full Gear that one year where they had that Strickland and Hangman Page match, where the Texas Death Match. Dude, that was gnarly. It was fucking gnarly seeing it in person. I know. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was definitely something I've never seen in person to that degree, or like, you know, like clearly they have a different level of violence. But it's just like, I can enjoy this shit without having to bash the other product.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah,
that's
and
the-
you know, more to your point, you know, if you're a wrestling fan, you should be actually rooting for the other companies to come up, you know, bring up some good wrestlers, put on some good shows, because really, we all know WWE's on top, right? They're the big dog. They're the main event. But we saw what happens when WWE doesn't have competition. They get stale.
Yes.
They get complacent, right?
100.
So if you have all these other companies,
100.
you have all these other companies like putting on these really like banger matches, bringing in all this other talent, you know, and even scooping up talent that WWE had to let go because maybe the roster is too deep or something, and they can find something for them to do in their promotions. You know what I mean? It'll just it'll keep WWE on the toes to be like, oh, look at what they're doing right now. You know, we don't have to copy them, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh, if we want to stay on top, we got to make sure that we stay better than the rest of the competition, right?
Absolutely. No, that's 100. Because like, it's nice to have competition. Like that one point right there, it elevates other people to do better, right? Jay?
If I could comment, like, okay, so we talking about tribalism. We talking about, I mean, guess you could say WWE versus AEW, whatever it is, right? So when AEW comes out, they're hot. They're the new chick, right? Everybody feeling them. You get all this hype and all that stuff, right? So you have people saying, oh, this AEW. Oh, what is this thing about, right? And you have people interested. Okay, good. That's good, right? You see AEW, they're getting some fans. People started talking about them. Oh, they better than WWE and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that's cool. It creates competition. We saw this before. If you look at it, when Hogan turned heel and he was NWO for life, they were whooping WWE's ass for like 86 weeks or something like that. Eric Bischoff.
83
Remember,
weeks?
I took
It's weeks.
whatever it is, right? So I wasn't watching because, like Nick said, it got a little bit stale. And then, you know, we all busy. We all got lives. We do, you know, the wife thing, the work thing, whatever you're doing, you get busy, the hobby thing, right? You don't have, as much as wrestling is like available everywhere, you don't got the time, right? Unless you know, there's people that are younger, most likely, and they got all the time in the world, but that's neither here or there, right? So you got to compel me to watch because I only got X amount of time. So when Hogan turns heel, he's NWO, you kicking WWE's butt. What does Vince do? Oh, hey man, this attitude. You know, I gotta copy a little bit of EC Dub. Because even though, bro, what I'm saying is that AEW, fine, you were the hot chick. Now, okay, you got my attention. What did you do? You haven't done really anything to get me to compel me to watch.
Right.
The stories they need long-term storytelling. They need better of it. WWE, they're throwing Ronda Rousey at me. They're throwing Logan Paul at me. They're throwing Bad Bunny at me. So even if I was a tourist, right, I would be like, oh, that's something, right? You made WWE check itself. We don't got no dog food stories no more. And they have better content now. You have this tribal chief. They turned Roman heel. And the production just got so much better. And what's your response, AEW? Okay, you had me for a minute, right? Now you lost me. WWE came back. So competition, like we were talking about, it WWE always steps up, man. The Attitude Era is born because of competition. Now this Triple H era is born because AEW came out. Now, what are you going to do? Because again, I see very similar trajectories here where WWE is going to get you, MJF. You're going to come eventually. Ospreay, even though you disrespected Triple H's wife, Triple H does what's good for business. You'll probably end up in WWE because if you ain't getting people glued into seats like AEW is, it's the tribalism thing. Like, I don't get it. We should all be pulling for this company because when WCW was good, WWE got better.
Absolutely.
When AEW with the new chick, WWE got better, right? They stepped up the game. So what I would like to see happen here is, take advantage of all this media that's out there, all this way to get content. ECW, probably one of the best promotions. They just couldn't get a TV deal.
Yeah.
That's what killed them.
Yeah.
But if they got their TV deal, bro, there is no Stone Cold Steve Austin. They were banger after banger after banger. Bro, they were throwing tables, ladders, chairs, all of that stuff, man. That's all EC-Dub. Vince just took it. Paul Heyman is that much of a genius. He just couldn't get the TV deal. Right. AEW, you have the TV deal. Give me something to watch. Give me something to... Because let me tell you this. I tried to... Good Lord, it's a tough watch. This Costco guy, whatever he was, I tried to watch it. It was... what the hell was I doing? Granted, it wasn't the top... granted, it was not like, the MJFs. It wasn't Osprey. It wasn't the big dogs, right?
Right.
But I cannot... You're making me waste... I want a refund. I want my time back. You know what I'm saying? Like good Lord, man.
Sorry, you can't get that back.
Yeah, because these, you know what I'm saying? Like these guys kind of... I watched it and nah, bro. So,
right.
Both having competing promotions is good. At least be like TNA. I like what they're doing because you're kind of paying attention to them now, right? Like you kind of have to watch. Joe Hendry, somebody you have to watch.
Absolutely.
What's it? Jordan Grace, when she was there, you kind of want to watch. They have interesting people.
Yeah.
So,
and to add on to that, AEW was kind of already doing that collaboration with New Japan and TNA before WWE kind of like jumped on that actual partnership, right?
Yeah, but so again, give me something compelling to watch because, like I said, Scott Hall showing up at WCW made me like, whoa, what's going on, right? And now, like, I only have X amount of time in a day. Give me some long-term storytelling. Give me something that makes me say, this is entertainment. This is why I'm watching this. And WWE, they don't hit all the time. Don't get me wrong, nothing's perfect. But they do. Like, WWE so loaded, right? I'll give you this example here. Is that they were building an Otis versus Chad Gable story. And they put weeks and weeks. You would see Chad Gable getting bullied. Otis getting bullied by Chad Gable, getting the belt, Alpha Academy, all that kind of stuff. They were building. They had a story there. And then all of a sudden, Wyatt Six comes. And don't get me wrong, I like Wyatt Six. But what happened? I didn't get a payoff to my... You pushed that story. Your roster's so deep, you push that story aside. Now that Otis and Chad Gable heat, it kind of fizzled. It's a lot of that start and stop booking with Otis that they failed him because he's a sideshow now because of what they did. This is a Money in the Bank winner. This is a guy WWE said, all right, you have a potential to be a champion. All right. And it gets taken away from him. That's another start, stop, finish for him. Then you get this program with Chad Gable, who was doing wonderful work. Like, this guy's the workhorse. He's always in good stories. And then Wyatt Six took over that, and Otis again to the side. So, just loaded rosters. You got to really shine. And that's kind of like a little bit of these start and stop finishes and the kind of like, I'm not getting payoffs to some of the stories. That's kind of some dislikes I'm dealing with.
No, for sure. I think it's valid. At the end of the day, I think the payoff, right? We're always wanting like a payoff here. Like, what is this leading to? At the end of the day, it's kind of like anything, right? But I think, like going back to that whole storyline between Otis and Gable, I don't think it's completely done. I still see a little bit of interaction where like there's the foundation of that feud, right? Kind of like similar to the whole Roman and Seth thing, you know what I mean? Just because they're not having like actual feuds happening, but every time these guys cross paths, there's always that foundation going back to that betrayal. So it's like, it can always be revisited. And I think that is kind of like a safe play, but it's also relevant. There's substance to it, which it may not happen now. I still kind of see it happening. It's just not like it's not going to be put to the forefront. And I think maybe, this is just my opinion, maybe there has to be an extra variable here, right? Maybe that feud picks up again when there's like a title involved. Who knows? I think it makes it a little bit more interesting. It kind of puts it more to a forefront to make it a little bit more main event caliber. For example, even if it's not main eventing a PLE, it could main event like a Raw or SmackDown, right? Like those two could definitely do it if there's like something else that's kind of coming into play. But I totally understand your point here with the whole stop and go, like the investment in certain wrestlers, and then all of a sudden it just plateaus, and you don't know where the storyline's going, or you don't even know where the wrestler's going, right? The trajectory of their actual like push got plateaued or even deflated, for that matter. And kind of like even like
that storyline, if you think about it, it could have made Maxine a bigger deal. It could have been, because Maxine was getting a lot of sympathy and a lot of like the WWE universe, you could see was, sympathetic to their cause, or they're involved in that story.
Right.
I'm not sure what it would have done for Akira, but he's hanging around there, right? But what I'm saying is Maxine, he was getting some hype, I would believe, and Otis was definitely getting his hype back. And again, that's a credit to Chad Gable, who just, bro, this guy, you put him in anything. Penta, I got you. Let me do that.
Yeah.
Wyatt Six, I got you. Like, you put this guy in any program, Sami Zayn, this guy, I mean, he's going to get rewarded with a belt soon.
No, for sure.
Some sort of, he's going to get rewarded.
No, I think Gable's one of their guys right now that they invested in, and they know like he's going to get his push, and that push is going to be due sometime soon. I can say that. I think like, there's another thing that I wanted to kind of like segue into, and you were talking about the whole Scott Hall thing, like I don't know about you guys, but when Scott Hall appeared on WCW television, like the presentation of that, it gave like a sense of realism because of like just the commentary and like the way he entered that arena. It made it feel like what the hell is this, like planned? Like, what are we seeing here? Like why is it actually being put on their TV right now? Because the assumption is like Scott Hall, or at that time Razor Ramon, was still contracted with WWE, but here he is cutting that promo. Probably his most known and famous promo, right? That he's trying to start a war.
You know who I am.
Yeah,
you
know where I'm from. Here. Not even saying his name, right? Just making it known like it is him. But I'm on WCW television right now, and it's kind of wild because see, and like I think that part of it, what I'm trying to segue into is like there are things that come off portrayed as like a work or a shoot, and clearly the terms work and shoot tie into like pro wrestling. Work being something scripted, it was part of the plan, so to speak, versus a shoot where somebody went off the cuff or improvised, right? And that kind of also like takes me back to the whole like narrative, like pro wrestling is fake, and this here, right? Like as a fan hearing that shit, that's probably like the biggest thing that can like trigger me to respond. And I don't think I've ever come across an individual that has used that term, fake, and I wasn't able to respond. So I'm kind of curious as fans, what are you guys actually saying when you guys hear that pro wrestling is fake? Do you guys even engage in that conversation?
Like, it depends. It depends on what they mean by it's fake, because they pick the winners. What is it, right?
So like, so they're not hitting each other. Like they would die. Right. They would die if they actually did that. If that was real. Kicked that hard. And like the winners already predicted. It's just premeditated. Like how do you react to that?
That is triggering, man, because you see them, or when they actually do bleed. Nah, that's not real blood. Like, remember that guy who jumped off the thing in Danja or something, and he hit the back of his head? Like, that's fake. When he landed,
you talking about the JD spot on Raw?
JD.
We did the moonsault. Yeah.
Right, when they're jumping off of all that, how is that fake? Like, you can't just play that like that.
Right.
You're the stunt double, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're acting and this is a performance, this is a movie, they are their own stunt doubles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love that they sell it. So if they're saying, oh, they're acting, well then if that's the fake part, good, because they selling me. I feel it's real when I'm in there. And what Jay
still
Soul
real
was
to
saying,
me, damn it.
yes. How are you gonna keep me engaged? How do you keep me in your match? Like, dude, despite oh man, yeah. See what I mean? See, and like I want to answer 10 things at once with that question. Like, man, dude, how is it fake? Like,
I'll say this, right? It's scripted. Yes, I think that's like if
okay,
any word is going to be used there, it's scripted. But guess what? Any form of pure entertainment is typically scripted. Even reality TV is scripted to a degree, right? So to say like this is fake, that's like the one word that I'm like, dude, don't even try with me right now, because fake is fake. But at the end of the day, to discredit pro wrestling as far as the athleticism, the capability to be in front of live audiences and be able to say their lines, like the way they do it, they're clearly professionals in their own field in this industry, right? And to say it's fake is such a slap in the face. It's a big insult to me. And as a fan, like I don't know how you guys feel, but as a fan, something I'm very passionate about, it's a pure form of me escaping real life, and I think anyone out there can attest to whatever it is, whether it's pro wrestling, whether it's certain sports, like your specific fan base of a specific team, you're going to be passionate to a certain degree. It may not even be sports related. It can just be like, hey, cooking, or you're into beauty products or whatnot. Like just to think about like people having such a love for a certain thing and have somebody else shit on it by saying something stupid, like in this case, oh, pro wrestling's fake. I don't know why you watch it. It's not even real. It's such an insult. And to me, it's just like, I don't think you hear, or you're even in the know to even be part of this conversation. Like, you don't watch, you shouldn't be saying shit about it. Clearly, your opinion is your own opinion at the end of the day. But there's no validation to that type of remark, in my opinion.
Yeah, so like for me, when I would say when I was younger, and I was within the first, I want to say, couple of years of watching wrestling. Yeah, and you know what? I noticed it was more the older crowd too. Not as in like older as in like their 50s or anything, but it was like the people who were kind of moving into their adulthood and all that stuff. They were like, yeah, that's fake, right? It's fake. And it's like, when I was a kid or when I was younger, it was like, I know it's fake, but it's kind of cool. You know what I mean? And nowadays, if somebody tells me, oh, wrestling's fake, right? I'm like, I'm one of those people that's like, okay. I kind of just look at them and don't really engage in the conversation, because, you know what I mean? If you're telling me it's fake, you're telling me that you think I'm not smart enough to know that it's not scripted. You know what I mean? And scripted is the right word. It is. We know it's scripted, right? Yeah. But it's long-term storytelling, and that's what we stick around for. What do people stick around for when they watch their favorite series or their favorite movie? It's for the long-term storytelling, right? Yes. It's for the events that unfold, for the big payoff. And that same thing in wrestling. We stick around to watch all these stories between 2 wrestlers or 4 wrestlers or whatever is going on for the big payoff at the end, which usually manifests at either SummerSlam or WrestleMania for big storylines, right?
Right.
And yeah, so one of those people, it's like, you know what? At this point, I get it. If you want to say it's fake, go ahead, say it's fake. It is what it is. But this is something that I still enjoy, and I mean, if you want to go enjoy your other fake shows, it's all good, bro. Dude, just
go subscribe to your fake movies and your fake series.
Exactly.
Listen to your fake rappers.
Exactly.
It's funny when somebody goes to you and they say, that's fake. It's like, oh my God, really? Like, come on. We all know fake is the wrong word to say. It's scripted. But can you really fake a chair bump? Can you really fake like jumping off the balconies and stuff like the Hardy Boys? You cannot fake that stuff. These guys have a skill, a talent. They're willing to put it all out there for our entertainment.
Yes.
Granted, though, you respect the fact that they're highly trained and that they're able to do it safely, right? So,
Right.
you hear a lot of the wrestlers talk. They're always like, we got to have each other's back because we're working together.
Right.
It is
Yes.
work. It is a form of entertainment. I was gonna say Cirque du Soleil kind of thing, right? But then I
Okay.
feel like I'm kind of saying that they're a circus, and that might come off insulting. So I
But I get
do
what
want
you're
to say
saying.
it's a right.
No, me too.
I want to
I
say
understand.
it's a high form of entertainment.
Live entertainment
that-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, high
Yes.
form of
And-
execution. Yes.
Yeah, these guys are phenomenal athletes. Like you look at Bianca Belair, that girl is amazing. I mean, he's probably I think only Charlotte Flair can match her in athleticism and that might be for another topic, but
Yeah.
again, that girl is so athletically gifted. Montez Ford, these Great Muda, obviously. These
think?
guys
You think?
are so, yeah.
I'm not
These
sure about
guys
that.
and okay, you see, like, when you see a Wembanyama, right? We go to basketball. You see a Wembanyama, he's moving like this, and he's tall, and he's athletically gifted, and he's doing things like he's moving like a guard, right? You see a Jacob Fatu, you see a Yokozuna, you see Bronson Reed. What's that one guy's name in the War Raiders? I can't think of his name right now.
Ivar.
Yeah, you see him.
Oh,
the way
those
they
guys.
move,
Yeah.
I would even throw
that-
Keith Lee's name in the mix here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Keith Lee.
Oh.
These guys are not supposed to move like that.
Exactly.
Nah.
And
Yeah.
The
How is that
cartwheel,
fake?
dude. Yeah.
like, how is that fake? That looking like that's not even AI doing that. That's them doing the flips, doing it's
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Like again, when they say it's fake, it's just a guy trying to hate. And to be honest, it's probably like the older gens, I would say. Like Nick hit on it just a little bit. Like he said, like it was almost the uncles or the old lady or the old man saying, like, that's fake, man.
Yeah.
And again, we know it's scripted. It's you cannot fake those moves they're doing. You can't.
No, you
And
can't.
to do it
No,
safely,
you can't.
to do it safely the way they're doing it to protect each other and all that stuff. I mean, it's granted, you got to give me some long-term storytelling. You got to get me invested in it. But I mean, the product as hot it is right now, man, like kudos to these guys, man. I don't even care about it. They call it fake.
Somebody asked, what's his name? I Show Speed, the dude, the
Oh, man.
podcaster. Ask
Nasty
him
dog.
if that was
Ooh.
fake. Ask
Yeah.
him when he got lined up like that. Was that fake? Like, oh no
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
he felt that.
So I just wanna add on to that. So like Jojo was saying, right? Jojo, me and you wrestled in high school, and so we know what it is. We know what it feels like to be slammed on a wrestle mat. It's unforgiving. It's unforgiving. And me personally, I got to actually go in a wrestling ring, a WWE wrestling ring. It was when I went to Georgia. They actually let us go in the ring. I don't think they intended us for us to like take bumps or anything, but they did let us. It was during when we were in the convention hall so they had all these different things where you could see the old gear of the wrestlers. They had signings and all this stuff, but they actually had a ring set up. And at one point, they did let us go in, and I took a bump. Bro. And yeah, no, I did it. I mean, I did it on purpose. I wanted to see what it was like.
What you doing,
And
moonsault?
granted, no, hell no. I just fell flat to my back
Oh, okay.
to see what it felt like. Right?
Did somebody at least
So I
clothesline
just-
you?
I-
Like give you like a
No.
a body slam?
I just fell to my back just to feel what it felt like, and I'll say it's not as brutal as being slammed on a amateur wrestling mat, but I mean, there's still
like
a
some
lot of
give
force
to it,
into
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of give. There's definitely a little bit of give, but I mean, doing
Still-
that day in and day out, dude, that'll wear your body down for sure. So I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
Nick,
definitely not fake in that aspect.
Nick, let me ask you something really fast. So you said you walked into the ring, right?
Right.
So did you get to walk around it also?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I did because
so when they do the bumps outside, they're doing suicide jumps and they're getting slammed to that little padding that on the whatever.
Which is basically a
sometimes it's
wrestling
not even
mat.
patty.
That's basically
Yeah,
a wrestling
yeah,
mat right there. The outside.
How hard? How hard did that feel?
It was pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie because so like if you, I'm pretty sure we've all seen it how they set up a wrestling ring. So it's basically just the it's just basically just wood, and then there's that like a foam, I think, and then there's
Yeah.
that wrestling
Yeah.
mat right on top, right? And then some of the rings they'll have like springs on them. I'm not too sure how WWE sets theirs one up. But like I said, bro, I took the bump. I fell straight to my back, and I went pretty. I want to say I went pretty hard. Not enough that I was gonna cause attention to myself, but enough that I could feel force, and there was, like I said, there was some give. I could feel the ring like slightly move, but it was it was. Like I said, if you do it every day, I can see how that thing would take a toll on your body. It's definitely not fake in that aspect.
No
Going
way.
off that top rope, Nick? You going off that top
Oh
rope?
no! Oh hell
Not
no!
for
bro.
real.
Tsunami.
Nah, you know, in my 20s, I would have entertained that. Right now, bro, I think every bone in my body would have after that.
You got to scale back
Good.
your moveset now, like you're
Yeah,
in the
for sure.
40s.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd attempt the tsunami, but
Yeah.
the whole Jacob Fatu moonsault, nah, I'm good.
It's like
Hey, would you-
I'm sorry. It's like Booker T doing that Harlem Hangover, but then scaling back to doing like the bookend, right? Like no more off the top row moves.
Yeah.
Well, you see AJ Styles, man. I mean, this guy, dude, he's performing at a high level.
Yeah.
He's still doing
Yeah.
all these high risk maneuvers.
Yep.
Oh, and Ray's 40 and up.
Yes.
And he's
Wait, no, I thought he was
going
like
back
50s.
really
He's like in his
fast.
50s, if not mistaken.
going back to really fast when you were at that AEW event and the guy was talking about Penta. I mean, some of these fans have never seen a prime Ray. The prime Ray. Woo!
It's funny you say that, though.
Ray.
It's funny you say that, though, because the guy, I heard him chatter even like a little bit about like, it's like, oh, I stopped watching WWE, but then this is what brought me back to wrestling. So it's funny, he actually said that specific comment, but the way he talked was just like he's like a tribalistic type of fan. Again, like speaking nonsense. So, like that was that part. But yeah, end of the day, it's crazy. Yeah, prime. Everyone, these guys were in their prime. Like clearly, like we see them now. They're older. They're not gonna do everything that they used to do back in the day. Like, especially, and I'll say, like, like watching Ray do the stuff that he did at ECW back in the day, even before he debuted on WCW, it is insane. Him, Eddie Guerrero, right? I think
Onan.
Juventud.
Conan.
Parka.
Yeah,
Parka.
a lot of those luchadors, like,
Ajiri.
it's insane. Like, to discredit the fact that these guys come in with superb athletic ability, and to what my cousin said, they're their own stunt doubles. Nobody's filling in for them.
Yes.
This ain't CGI, right? Like, it's insane to say these comments, and like to kind of like wrap it up here. I'll say this. I think the episode really encompasses why we're all fans, why we come together to do this podcast, and it is not just a hobby or a pure form of entertainment, but for a lot of us, we're invested because it's an escape. It allows us to enjoy something outside of real life, because there's a lot of things, especially negativity, that may impact us on a day-to-day, but this is like one form of us to escape and to be invested in these characters, and just how like these moments impact us or get us emotionally invested. And at the end of the day, when I think back to like when I first started watching pro wrestling, it also takes me back to the fact that it brought me and my dad and my grandpa to this one significant moment in time, watching together. And I don't think a lot of those things happen by accident. And it's interesting because it's something so pure about that moment that I feel like I can always look back to that and feel like I'm a kid again. And it feels like such a safe space. So thinking back to that moment and to what it's transpired into, I'll throw this out there. One cool thing about this year is that I'm going to WrestleMania, right? And the one person I'm bringing with me is my dad. The funny part is he's never been to any live event. So to see this come back full circle, us going there, it's just like wild to me. Like, how could I actually anticipate or even predicted this? But this is what I'm saying. As a fan, to hear these kind of negative comments, like it's fake, it does impact me. It does trigger me. So anytime any of us, or even anybody out there, like as a pro wrestling fan, it doesn't matter what company, it doesn't matter who you're rooted for, but just keep this in mind. Like, we are fans for a reason, and what we're passionate about, what brings us together, what we love. I don't think we should take shit from anybody that doesn't even know about pro wrestling, let alone making these kind of comments of, oh, it's fake. You know what? Guess what? There's a lot of things that's fake, but you're purely entertained by it. We can talk about that all day too. Movies are scripted. Shows are scripted.
Right.
We ain't shitting on that. Like, I'm not going to like every show out there, but at the end of the day, don't come at me telling me about something I'm more passionate about, you saying that kind of stupid shit. Because what we're talking about here are things that bring us together, what makes us feel happy, what makes us feel positive, and it engages us. It engages not just us, but people out there, the community, the IWC. As toxic as it is, it can be worth our time, worthwhile. It is a community nonetheless. And I think what brings us together, something specifically like this, I can't hate it. It's clearly changing.
No way,
it's
bro.
changed my life. It's impacted me in nothing but positive. Just because as somebody as big as a fan as I am, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way, we want to be a representation of the pro wrestling community in the most positive way. So take that for what it is. At the end of the day, you come in to join us, whether you're on the podcast or just viewing the podcast. I'm going to say this. We love pro wrestling. Ain't no argument about that. We know pro wrestling
100%.
is scripted. We don't give a damn. What matters is that love this and we want to talk about it. And we are going to talk about this for more episodes, which we want you to join us. At the end of the day, our group right here, LTS, throwing up the ones, and we out. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Later.